Meet J.C. Leyendecker, the man who made looking sharp an art form. Born in 1874, Leyendecker was the guy behind the sleek, stylish men you see in vintage ads. You've probably seen his work on Saturday Evening Post and those iconic arrow-colored men's ads back in the day. This guy single-handedly invented the modern male look, perfectly combed hair, tailored suits, mustaches. He even had a friendly rivalry with Charles Dana Gibson. Talk about the original art world drama. Sadly, his fame faded away after World War II, but his legacy, absolutely timeless. His influence is everywhere, from retro fashion and modern design. I wanted to see how I can incorporate some of his techniques into my own workflow. Through observation and practice, I'm going to attempt to dissect some of his work, and that's not going to be a small feat for an amateur artist like me. However, he has been a great inspiration throughout my career, and I've been wanting to dive into his work for a while. So, what's the goal here? My intentions is not to copy his style. Instead, I'm going to take 3 to 4 small observations from his most famous work and see how it can improve my own illustrations. But where do I even begin? His work is vast, and his process mostly a secret. How do I even start? Where do I even look? I'm just an amateur artist trying to make his way up the ladder of the art industry. Thinking about it was making me feel small. But just like his undying legacy, I soldiered on. So first, I thought I would just start simple. Spend time and sift through his work, and I spent about 3 days looking closely at his paintings and reading observations from other artists about his work. Suddenly, a pattern started to form. I made a list of things that I think I could realistically replicate. Composition. Leyendecker composes some of his work with contrasting shapes. For example, if there's a round object here, there's a sharp object there. If there's a curve here, there's a straight line over there. Putting this to practice definitely took a lot of work and requires a lot of thinking. As you can see, I went through a lot of variations on how I'm going to approach this. But I finally arrived at this point. This sketch is what I came up with. The next part, details. I also noticed that some of his best work has a lot of details like this, and this, and this. It makes his drawing look good no matter where you look or zoom in. There's always something interesting to look at. So I layered my sketch with another sketch to draw out more interesting things, and I'm not just drawing randomly here. I'm also trying to tell a story. And there was the brushstrokes. This was actually the first thing that came to my mind when I first encountered his work many years ago. Simple and to the point, but when you zoom out, it gives you so much expression that sometimes it just doesn't make sense. I mean, how could this and this turn into this? The way I use this technique is by using a textured brush to render the shadows and the light. I'm almost sculpting it here, and it gives that painterly look to the illustration. Painting digitally offers a lot of benefits. I'm definitely going to take advantage of some of them. For example, organizing your layers, structuring them in a way that makes it easy and simple to follow. This is how I structure my layers. First, the line art. The line art layer should be placed at the very top. Accompanying the line art is a mask layer at the very bottom. You do this by creating a fill layer and erasing the colors outside the line art. And you're left with something like this. Line art on top, mask layer at the very bottom. A quick way to do it is to use the magic wand like this and hit delete. Next, the colors. I divide my colors to 3 main parts: the skin, the main color, and then the hair. And I put 2 layers of shadows in between like this and an overlay layer for the light. And it's as easy as that. You can keep adding layers later on if you need them, but this is the core structure of how I paint. If you don't have a structure, please use this as a stepping off point to make something of your own later on. After this, it was just a matter of painting and rendering. And this is what I came up with. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. However, I feel like I need to push the storytelling aspect of it even further. She just feels bland, lonely, and uninteresting. I'm happy with how the techniques turned out, but I think I can do better. So I went back to the drawing board, sketched new scenes, did a couple more variations of that, and new compositions, sketching new elements, and finally, after a week's worth of painting, this is what I came up with. This has definitely been a challenge, and I'm quite happy with how it turned out. This was not a small task to undertake for someone like me. In conclusion, you can see how the techniques of a classical painter like Leyendecker can still be applied to modern-day standards. There are some things I definitely want to carry over for their next painting. Again, my intentions were not to imitate, but to study his techniques. I hope you As an aspiring artist, found this video helpful, or at the very least interesting? A like and a sub would go a long way. Bye bye you!